Took me a couple minutes because of some technical issues. They're my own fault. Man. Something that's, God help me out, it's been really eating at me, that I've been kind of putting off, is I've been going through a lot of 1 John. Since it's a pretty short book, you can just go through it over and over and over and over and over. And then I started going through Hebrews too. And there's a lot about loving your brother. Now, you can spend very, very little time on social media and see how many people don't love their brother. How many of these people are Christians? You know? How many of them claim to be part of something that Jesus is? And then go on and on and on about hating these idiots or hating this religious group. And then they still pay their due diligence on Sundays. These people go to church, listen to somebody talk about the impending persecution. It's inevitable, the world's going to hate you, and blah, blah. And then they go on to participate in persecution of another religion, of another race, of another kind of people. I'm not going to say those people aren't Christians, but it's pretty clear that they don't know God. Kind of thirsty. I mean, let's say somebody that's not even professing Christianity, they can go through the Bible. They can study the life of Jesus, study the life of Paul, study the life of John, and see the precedents, these standards that are set, the expectations, the lifestyles that these guys from the early church lived, and what they expected from the people that they were leading, inspiring, whatever you want to say. If they make a list of those kind of standards and compare it to a lot of us, what's our excuse going to be to them, to God? It's easy to make excuses to ourselves. We can just get lost in this infinite loop of thinking, of reasoning. And somebody comes in with a little bit of outside thought and throws us all off. John talks a lot about having confidence before God. If our heart doesn't condemn us, we can have this confidence. John goes on to emphasize love for our brothers, for our family. Now, we can look at that one of two ways. We can do it the old school church way of referring to ourselves as Brother Pete and Sister whoever. Or we can take a broader look at it and realize if God created everything, then it would stand to reason that who on this planet is not really a brother or a sister. And then we can go on into Luke and talk about the prodigal son. So, yeah, he started the same place. What if, if we got to come up with excuses to find ways to be jerks to people, we're doing something wrong. If we got to justify, apart from the Bible, what the Bible says about how to treat people, Something ain't right. If God created the dude down the street that's a different religion, and one that you may not like, what's your excuse for not treating him like a brother? What's your excuse for not treating him like God would treat him? There shouldn't be an excuse. And if there is, why do you call yourself a Christian? Isn't Christianity about knowing God, not about using some respected book and some respected being as some kind of scapegoat or some kind of leverage for the crap that you want to do with your life? That's more than that. We can go through just 1 John, all 5 little chapters, set up a little checklist of what's expected of Christians, of people that claim to know God, and realize we're only going to check off like half of them. That's a crappy feeling. Now, John didn't leave us completely in the dark, because he talks about us having an advocate with the Father. But it's clear by how few people seem to be changing, developing themselves, growing up, spiritually evolving, that advocate is obscenely underemployed, underutilized. That might be a better word. And it's just time for that crap to stop. I mean, either shut your mouth about God and go on about politics and how terrible and awful and wrong other religions are, or shut up about that stuff and go on with God. It ain't going to be both. One thing that stuck with me when I was reading a while back was to not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh. It was one of those things that just jumped out at me. I'd read it for a long time. You know, you read something over and over and over and over and over, and then all of a sudden it just becomes three-dimensional. Kind of. That's what happened to me with that verse quite a while ago. And because God knows we've all done that. Like, God, I just want this. And I know you love me. I know you're full of forgiveness. So I'm just going to do this one more time. And then one more time goes for like a week, 2 weeks, a month straight. Just one more time. That season, I call it seasons. That era, that time, I don't know what to call it, but seasons. So just play along with me, please. That time is starting to wind down because God's starting to expect a whole lot more of us now. It's not about not developing ourselves with God just because we like what we got going on and we want to marginalize other people in the name of God, because that helps put us on a soapbox, on a pedestal. That makes us feel like we're above this other group of people. Because you can see in the Bible that's exactly what Jesus did. Because he talks about the Son of Man being lifted up. If that's what you think that means, you read it again. It's about not looking for those kind of opportunities anymore, about not being so focused on feeling like you fit in, like you're a part of something on this planet. You just kind of put God on the back burner, and then every once in a while you're like, God, I sure do like you. I like what you got going on. I like what you do for me. Don't do it for this other group of people, though. They're terrible, terrible people. That's the exact opposite of intercession. What's the matter with people that do that? And like I said, it seems like an unnecessary fight to pick by saying that they're not Christians. But hard to argue with the statement that they don't seem to know God that well. You can read 1 John for yourself and find out that is one big standard that John had. If you say you love God, you love your brothers. If you say you know God and you walk in darkness, you're a liar. All kinds of stuff like that. So, if somebody doesn't even have to be a Christian, just well-read, to know that somebody professing Christianity is full of crap, then something's wrong. Something's really wrong. And that is what God's trying to grow us out of, is those kind of excuses, the kind that we can just keep feeding to ourselves and just keep nursing His grace and that perpetual forgiveness. We can't keep living in that anymore. I said we, because I may have been there for a while here lately too. But it's about, man, you say you know God, you say you're a Christian, how does that not make you a minister in one form or another? Not getting up and talking to people about stuff you think you know. Maybe just going and helping somebody down the street. Maybe somebody needs the leaves taken out of their gutters, leaves raked up off their yard. Maybe if it snows, they need the driveway cleared off, something like that. You think, well, what's worth more to you in those circumstances? Doing something like that for somebody? Money, or knowing you did what God wanted you to, what God would have done in that same position? There's a real good friend of mine. I've known him. I used to work for him years ago. And he taught me a lot about management. And he had a couple of small businesses before, and then things went south where we were working. He moved back about 8 hours south of me. And I still keep in touch with him. And I hadn't talked to him since I got laid off a few months ago. Like, I remember we texted a little bit. And finally caught up with him. We're just chatting. And the dude can almost make money on accident. He's that kind of guy. And a while back, I helped him start up this, just getting into real estate stuff. And then he started doing vacation rentals and this and that. And then he just recently got a real estate license. And now he's telling me, man, I got leads. If I can find somebody to work for me and keep him busy just for 6 months on what I got now. And he's talking about how he quadrupled what he was making when he was up here. And then we started talking about my jobs, and it's a bumpy road. He said, man, why don't you just find something you like doing? I said, I like helping people. He said, well, yeah, you're the kind of guy that would just, you can go door to door and ask somebody if they need help, because that's what he does. And he does it for money. He's just entrepreneurial. That's the way he does things. And I just honestly don't like dealing with money except out of necessity. I leave that for somebody else. I just want to do good. He's like, hey, you just start doing something for somebody, and all of a sudden you're working on the whole block for free. He said, man, I don't know how you can do that. I said, but he's just a money maker, and he's not a greedy tool about it. But he also got burned by people that said they're Christians. And he was little, too, just when he was a kid. And he started talking to me about church because he knew how important that has been to me, especially when he lived up here. And I was like, well, I just got tired of the whole thing, the charades. Then he starts laughing. And I said, yeah, I've been there. I know what you're talking about. He was just shocked that I was more in the same boat as him than church people. Honestly, I wasn't sure I'd ever feel like that either. Anyway, rabbit trail. What we got to emphasize with ourselves is not making excuses, not looking for a way out just to put off feelings, emotions. Just we got to be close enough with God to realize that postponing these crappy feelings, just trying to figure out how to put them off through one high or another, whether it's just binging on a TV show so you can forget about stuff, or any number of different things. I mean, if it's taken us that far away from God to where we don't want to confront what's in the way, then time to have a serious chat with ourselves. Because God's ready to bring us past that, past these excuses. And that's where his heart is. That's where his heart's been, but he's had to dumb it down a lot and slow things down because of us, because of where we're at, because he's kind of trying to he's stuck on our pace, more or less. John, you hear him talk about judgment. He who is of God hears us. He who's not of God doesn't hear us. You try telling somebody that, and they'll have all kinds of names for you. Religious names, of course, but arrogant, proud, pompous, haughty. John was just drawing a line in the sand. If you want God, you're going to hear me, is what he said. I'm not quite on that, not quite in those same footsteps yet, I'm not. But doesn't mean it's bad to have that kind of confidence with God. When we know we're that close to him, that we can make just straightforward statements like that. That's where we got to get to. It's going to take knowing God a whole lot more. And, well, I mentioned before the difficulty I had learning about judgment, about discernment, because it just felt so prideful at first. Like, God, I don't want to be wrong about this. And then I choked on it for a couple of years at least, just going back and forth with not knowing how to deal with it. But somebody's got to draw a line and say, here and no further. This is where you go from just being full of crap to being at least on the road to knowing God. And it's going to take effort on your part more than just dragging your butt out of bed on a Sunday morning for an hour. And then only coming home so you can go back to hating on all these other people. So you can marginalize them. Why? Now, if we be honest with ourselves, why aren't more people Christians? Now, first answer we might hear in our head is the Sunday school one about how the path is narrow and difficult and blah, blah, blah. Okay, how many Christians are making it difficult before people even want to get a chance to know God? Those ones are going to be the first to bawl about persecution when they're doing the exact same thing to other groups. Those people are hypocrites. God's got some pretty straightforward things to say to them, which it isn't that he ain't trying to say it to them, it's that they aren't listening, which then means people that can hear God, they're stuck dealing with the brunt of these people's arrogant wrath when they got to go be God's messenger for this person or this person or this person. How, hey, you are being a hypocrite and you are doing more damage to God and yourself than anything else. So you need to shut your mouth and have a chat with God and set yourself straight. Imagine how many times that conversation will go over well. You read the stories about the Old Testament prophets. I mean, they never won any People's Choice Awards. We can say that. Maybe posthumously. But that's where the separation starts. And it's going to start with us realizing that all too recently, we may have been a little too full of crap for our own comfort when it comes to us and God and interacting with other people. About having too much pride in this instance, just completely disregarding God and being selfish in another instance. But the difference, that separation is going to be the people that get with God and get over that hump. And then the ones that are still just blinded by politics, by hate, by tradition, by whatever, by shallow judgment. You know, somebody, I was talking a while back about how I was mowing my lawn. I was just listening to some good hard rock. And some Bible thumper took offense to it. Sorry, some Christian took offense to it. Well, how can he be a minister if he listens to that kind of music? You don't even know what band it was, boss. It was Christian heavy metal bands. I don't even like heavy metal. That's too much noise. And believe it or not, there's secular bands that harbor a lot more spiritual principles you can harvest than these dime a dozen church groups that just like being behind a microphone or in front of a microphone, whatever, having a microphone to use. Because at least these secular bands are comfortable speaking from their heart instead of saying what they think saying what they think is, people want to hear. The other thing that keeps popping up in my head is the story of how King Saul came around. You see all these Christians super involved in politics. Like, Like it's okay for them to walk on all these other people in the name of a political agenda. But it's okay because the politician has invoked the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So, we go back to the Old Testament and read about how Saul came into power. It's been a little while since I read it, so I'm going to be a little rusty on the details. But basically, God's like, hey, we're in a position now, I can be Israel's leader. I can be the king. This is what we've been working for here, and yeah, cool. And he's telling this prophet this, and then the prophet's trying to tell these people, and they're like, no, we want to be like these people that have a king. We want somebody we can look at. We want to put a crown on somebody. And prophet goes back to God, and prophet's like, hey man, these guys are still jacked up. I don't know what to tell you. And God's like, well, give them what they want. So they pick this guy that looks good, head and shoulders above everybody else. He's just built like a king. And then it just goes nuts. Like he just goes all Nicolas Cage on the whole country. And then what? There's plenty of turmoil because of that. But these religious people were doing what they thought was best. And God and the prophet are over here in this other corner just chatting. Even the prophet told them what was going to happen. Like, yeah, it's cool. We got this. This is what we want. Yeah, we picked this guy. Seems like a lot of the Christians will get us in more trouble than anybody else. No one. That's how it's going to go. Talk about fear. We talk about the war on terror and terrorism. And a lot of us are too proud to talk about being scared, about living in fear. And we just look at the other side of that coin and call it being proactive about self-defense. I mean, whatever. Some people got a pretty good reason to feel like that. Some people have been molested, been raped, been beaten, kidnapped, whatever. There's plenty of stories out there. Ain't nothing wrong with self-defense. Where's God in it? Or are we just being proactive because God forbid somebody storm into my house, I'll just shoot them right between the eyes. And, okay, now I'm going to tell you what to do, but I think it's fair to ask where God is in all of these scenarios and all these situations you're mapping out in your head. Where's your God? Is he still just sitting in that closed Bible on a bookcase and the closed app on your phone? Outside your closed heart? Zing. Or outside your closed mind? John said God's commandments are not burdensome. John said there's really no room for fear when you know God. Now, during this season, this time of not using liberty, using God's grace as an opportunity to just keep succumbing to your emotions, to your desires, to emotions and desires, since I'm just as guilty. It was just a transition time. Before that, God was trying to build up a few people to help bring more people along, to help bring more people, to help bring more people. And then we came into this time of transition where we were breaking out of what we knew and just trying to cleanse ourselves from those ways of thinking, from those lifestyles, from all of that. There was that transition. And a lot of us, even if we did it unwillingly, during those times, if we didn't know better, used God's grace as an opportunity for the flesh, knowing it's not a one and done thing with God. You don't screw up once and then you're condemned, despite what some churches make it come across as. Knowing that we can have a fresh start tomorrow, we've gotten a little too liberal with feeling comfortable screwing up today. And I don't know how long that time has been going on, but I know it's wrapping up and there's expectations set. And a lot of it is still individual. Like, God's not going to have the same exact specific set of standards for me as for somebody else. I got some issues other people don't have, just like they got issues I don't have. But the general ones, man, just making excuses to continue doing your own thing without God, those are the kind of things that got to end. And God's there to help pick us up and to help teach us the next step and help us take the next step, to help encourage us, to help open up our mind to what he wants. He's the one trying to do something new here, and we're just stuck looking at yesterday and how things have always been. When Paul talks about communion and how you do bring judgment on yourself when you partake of the body and blood of the Lord, because that was a judgment. You take it in memory of it. Paul talks a lot about forgiveness around there. And a lot of you people are taking it for granted, what he said. Doing it lightly, without being circumspect, without the self-awareness that you very possibly could have had all along. The self-awareness that you're rejecting at this point, actively rejecting, is part of what you're going to be judged by when you take communion. And you got all these people in church that just hate passionately these other groups of people. That's got nothing to do with the love of God. Absolutely nothing. How are you gonna proselytize hate? You're an idiot if you think that's going to happen. You either got your own agenda of hating other people, or you got God's agenda. These people that are comfortable with that kind of lifestyle, and they take communion, emphasis on all this forgiveness, but they're going to go right back to hating this religion, that group of people. We're going to see God get a little more involved. It's like way back in the day, like 17th, 18th century, something like that, where they had those wax, the stamps where you put a glob of wax on an envelope, and then you got a seal you put on it, and these seals, there was an icon on them that represented the person that sealed it, like the king or whoever. These, you can call them judgments. Paul talked about how, this is why a lot of you people are dead and dying, is because you just, judgment came and you were not ready for it. Now, God's not going to have his seal it's not going to look like God to people that don't know God. Yeah. Because all these people, I should just get tired of listening to all this crap about the end times and blood moons and blah, 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 and how Jesus is coming back this day and you have to be ready. And it's all about fear. It's just scaring people into submission. Come on. Why don't we just start trying to encourage people and actually show them what God's about and what God's heart really is, instead of just some closed-minded bigotry? Because there is a sense of exclusion when it comes to God. You can read about that in Acts. But it ain't the way a lot of us see it right now. John talked about how, we're part of Jesus. We don't know what we're going to look like because we don't know what he's going to look like, but we know what we'll look like when we see him, when he's revealed. In a way, on a smaller scale, that's kind of where we're at now. We don't know what this judgment's going to look like, but we know it's going to come, and when we see it, we'll know what it is. We'll know. Yeah, I think that's close to what I was wanting to say. But you can see, even just looking through the Gospels, man, Jesus was an encourager to the people that were at least honest with themselves. And then you see about the people that weren't honest with themselves, how he treated them. And then coincidentally, most of them were church people, were part of the established religion of the day. But that chick that got caught in adultery, thrown down at his feet, and this whole crowd was ready to stone her, they were just waiting on Jesus to give them the word. And Jesus, like mid-lecture anyway. And then he takes her side. Why? She had nothing she could do. He just wanted to show her who God was. By giving her a second chance, by giving her a hand up, telling her, I ain't judging you, just stop. That's the kind of people God's trying to turn us into. Every single religion is full of there's always, whether it's part of their canon or not, there's judgment within religious groups. So why don't we just separate ourselves with God and just go against that grain? Are we going to talk about being scared of getting taken advantage of being robbed, cheated, and then just completely ignore Luke 6? But times are changing. We may not know exactly what they're going to change into yet, but what do we got to be worried about? If we have confidence in ourselves that we're hooked up with God. There's some interpretations of Superman where all somebody has to do is like be holding onto his finger or something, and then they can fly too. He doesn't have to be carrying. Maybe that's Peter Pan. I don't know. I get them mixed up sometimes. But if we're close to God, what do we really have to worry about? If we're refugees on this planet anyway, just waiting for our home. There's already enough hate. We can, we've seen plenty of that. What we need to focus on is just letting God cleanse our own heart from our pride, from our selfishness and short-sightedness, and our hoarding mentality of how I worked for this, so it's mine. Just trust that God's going to take care of us, no matter what, just because we're part of his family, and because he is well beyond the means, beyond having the means to take care of us. He's well capable of that. But it's time to separate ourselves with God. You know, every once in a while, I just turn into a glutton for punishment and look at what the church world is saying. And it's always, well, all the stuff I've seen is talking about all these wonderful things God's going to do. And then there's no expectations from the people. It's like, oh, wait, what? I thought God's work was finished. So he's going to keep doing more, and we're just going to keep sitting here talking about him. And everything's going to work out for us. That's not exactly what those things say, but you read between the lines, that's what it's getting at. You're okay how you are. This God's going to overtake you with a boatload of blessings. Okay, what exactly are blessings? Good feelings? God's finally going to give me that new car I've been sitting around waiting for? You know, those, if you ever run a race, there's those water stations, right? You're the one running to the water station. The water station does not come to you unless you need some kind of a medic. You just like pass out on the asphalt and get trampled. The runners are the ones going to the water station. We are the ones going to God's appropriations to get what we need. And if we need a medic, God comes and picks us up. Anyway, that's where we're at, I think. One era is shutting down and another one's opening up. It is an exciting and scary time. Yeah. Anyway, God's working on giving us a backbone so we can stand up to people that tell us we're oppressing them just because their feelings got hurt. Those will be fun times. Anyway, I think that's all I got for now. Love you guys. Peace.